Welcome back to page 121. Today's topic, what to do when someone can't make your RPG session. Everyone's had it. You have a last minute cancellation or just a no-show. What do you do? How do you keep your game consistent? How do you keep it going? I couldn't decide if I should make this video for Traveler or for D&D, so I decided I would do a hybrid. So I'm going to be working out of the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Traveler Core rulebooks. This case is Mongoose second, but it would apply to pretty much any. And the idea is what you as the GM do when one of your players can't make the session, or what you do as a group of players when your Dungeon Master or Game Master can't make the session. How do you deal with that? I'm going to give you some tips as to how I've dealt with it over the years. And that's really what I'm going to take a look at today. Also, real quick, subscribers, please do. Patreon, please take a look at it. Subscribers and patrons, thank you. Also, Jump Point is coming. Jump Point will be held in the southwest suburbs of Chicago sometime in August. I don't have a firm date yet, so I'm not going to reveal the venue until I have a firm date. But it'll be sometime in August, probably mid-August. And we are going to be offering both AD&D and Mongoose Traveler Second. AD&D will be run by my son Patrick, or Adam rather, and Traveler will be run by me. We'll take 6 to 8 players at the table for each. We will provide characters. A good time to be had by all. We did Jump Point last November and had an absolute blast. So that's the end of that plug. Back to the topic today, what to do when somebody can't make it to your RPG session. What to do when a player can't make the game. When I first came up with the idea for this and started doing my research on it, I thought, well, I'll do it as a D&D video. And I thought, oh no, there are different ways to handle it for Traveler, so I'll do it as a Traveler video. So as you probably guessed from the top, where I was wearing the D&D shirt with my Traveler shirt, I decided to do it for both. Since D&D and Traveler are the main thrust of my channel, I thought I would just show how I would handle a missing player and do handle a missing player in both games. So for the heck of it, we'll start with the D&D. How do I handle it in D&D? Well, that's going to depend on a few different things. We generally play with a group of anywhere between 5 and 7 of us. And that includes me as the DM and then usually 4 to 6 players. And it's going to depend on the campaign I'm running that night. A lot of my D&D campaigns, I'll end up picking one or two player characters and kind of making them more or less the focus of the campaign. And then once they're the focus, they're the ones that kind of drive things. And I write a lot of my stories based around that one particular character. Well, if that's the character that can't make it, then I have to alter my plans. So then I either go to just doing a side quest of that same campaign where it's not that important that the character's not there, or I bail entirely and go to another game. I've done that. I don't in D&D play the player character as an NPC. We used to do that back when the world was young, and I never cared for it. I've also had other player characters play somebody else's character. And I've generally found that if there's a dangerous thing to be done, the guy who is playing the other player's character will volunteer the other player's character to do the dangerous thing. That can lead to a lot of unhappiness at the table. So basically, if it's D&D and you can't make it, then we'll just go ahead and we'll keep the character out, and we'll continue with the campaign, and then we'll, the next time that we all get together for that game, we'll bring the person up to date, and then we'll just continue. Now, there are times when I've run games where they were, for various reasons, inside a dungeon without an ability to leave. And in the first part of that game, everybody was there, and then the second part, my son Pat couldn't make it. Okay, Pat's just not there. I just ignore it. I go forward, we play the game, and we don't play as if he were there. He does whatever he has isn't there. He's just not there. If he can make it the following game, then he does what we call a beam in. He just beams into the dungeon, and we continue things as if he'd been there all along. It's just the easiest way I've found to do it. With all of us being adults and all of us having jobs and lives and other obligations, you can't always be at the D&D game. And if you can't, the DM's got to be able to adapt a little bit and just still make it happen and still have the game be fun for everybody else who can make it. One of my players pushes snow in the winter here in Chicago. Consequently, he can sometimes work very, very long hours. I watch the forecast, and if I see that there's a bunch of snow coming up, he and I have an agreement. If it's snowy and he doesn't call me and doesn't show, I know he had to push snow that day. He's not going to be there. No hard feelings that he didn't call me. Simply, okay, he's not here. We'll go forward and we'll the rest of us will play. And he's fine with that. I'm fine with that. We've done that way now about 25 years, and we've never had a problem with it. The other end of this is what happens when the DM is the guy who doesn't show. And I've had this happen to me on more than a few occasions. I'm all set. I'm going to be a player character. And I get a phone call an hour and a half beforehand. There's been a car breakdown. Someone who was going to DM can't be there. Everybody else is on their way. What to do? And the answer is, unfortunately, I wing it. I will usually just come up with a game off the top of my head, and I'll wing it. And my players cringe when I wing a game because they say I'm much more vicious when I just pull a game off the top of my head as opposed to one that I've pre-written. I don't know. Maybe I am. But I've winged many, many games. I've even scrapped whole games on my ride home from work in favor of another idea I had on the ride, and I've thrown out 2 days worth of work because the new idea is a better idea, and I've gone with that. So those happen. So D&D, the answer is that there's a lot of flexibility, and you can kind of just make it happen. Now we go to Traveler. Traveler can be a little different. Traveler, you usually have a set crew, and the set crew usually has a set amount of skills or abilities or possessions that everyone relies on to make the entire group work. That is a time that I do allow someone to play somebody else's character. So if, for instance, my son Adam couldn't make a game that he was scheduled to make, which happened a few weeks ago in Traveler, I went ahead and gave his character over to my son Pat, and I said, can you play both of these tonight? And he said, sure. So he ran his and his brother's character and kept the campaign together. For whatever reason in Traveler, I don't like doing the beam in, which is ironic because beam in is from Star Trek, but it's a science fiction thing. But Traveler, I like everyone to be there as much as possible. But again, I'm a grown human being. I realize that there are times you just can't make it. For Traveler, it's more important that the character be present. 9 times out of 10, I will keep the characters between Traveler games. None of my other players, as I've said in previous games, none of my players read Traveler stuff between games. They're familiar with the characters, and then we always go over them at the start of the game and anything they might want to upgrade or we've talked about or whatever. But I usually will keep the physical character sheet, and that way if Roy can't make 1 week, then we just say, fine, okay, Roy's character is, I as the DM or GM, I will play his character tonight, and then I'll use him as kind of an NPC. If they're on a planet and it's a situation where the person could just be off getting some equipment, I'll do it that way, and I'll let them be off getting equipment. So for Traveler, it's a little more important to me, and this could just be my prejudice, I don't know. It's a little important to me that the characters all be there and all be present, as opposed to letting people beam in and out. Oh, we got a little visitor here. It's my cat, Caesar. Hey, buddy. How are you, buddy? Yeah? Caesar's very vocal. Caesar suffered a stroke a few weeks ago, but he's doing just fine. He's thriving, actually. The vets are amazed and optimistic. I, on the other hand, don't like how vocal he's gotten. All right, Caesar I thought Caesar wandered off. He's back. So back to the Traveler game. What happens if the Traveler GM can't make it? Well, since the early 80s, I've been the Traveler GM. So if I can't make it, we always play at my house. And if it's Traveler, it's always my rules, and I've got all the books and everything. So if that's the case, the game gets canceled. In this age of COVID, we've had many times where I've gotten a phone call on a Monday saying, hey, got COVID, not going to be there for the next week and a half. And we all say, okay, and then we either just skip for a while, depending on who's got it. There was an instance where pretty much all of us had COVID. It went on for over a month between all the players and my family. And we just didn't play for a month. It happens sometimes. But as far as the GM for Traveler, there is no alternative. I'm it. My son Adam has run some Traveler, but he doesn't want to try to run our game. I wish he would, because I'd love to play Traveler. So for Traveler, I usually will make it an extra effort, even if I'm really busy, I've got other things I've got to do. If I've committed to Traveler, I will carve out some time and I'll do it. Going back to the D&D thing, if we can't make D&D, we play at my house. So if nobody can make D&D, or I can't make D&D that week, we end up canceling because I'm always the host. We started hosting back, oh gosh, about 30 years ago, because it was just easier to host here because I have most of the figures and the scenery and stuff. It was a lot easier, a lot less wear and tear on my materials if I just hosted every week. And my wife is fine with it. She plays D&D with us all the time. And if we're playing Traveler or Gamma World and she doesn't want to play it, she just sits in another part of the house and watches TV and does some of her hobbies while we play the games. My wife's been a real sport about that for a long, long time. So getting back to what you do if players can't make it, the short answer is cope. We just kind of deal with it. We try to make the most of it without the player. We've had it come down to where everyone is canceled but Craig. And Craig and I'll talk, and I'll say, Craig, what are you going to do? And he'll say, let's play some Spellfire. So we'll play some Spellfire for that night. Or I've run solo games where he's just had his character be the only one in the adventure, and then I've come up with an adventure just for him. So there are ways to do it. I like to play whenever I can. Carving out these couple hours a week is not always easy, and there are times you just can't make it. But I make a lot of effort to be available for my players, and I know that they reciprocate and they make a lot of effort for me. So that's it. That's all I've got on what to do when people can't make it for your RPG night. Let me know what you think. What if I'm completely wrong and you have to stop the game right there until everybody can play? Maybe that's the way you play it. That's entirely up to you. But that's all I've got today from page 121. For Caesar and I'd like to say have a great day, and I'll see you next time.